Welcome to...
Hey, great shot.
This is the Great Shot Podcast, a Cracked Racquets and Tennis Channel production. My name is Alex Gruskin. Obviously, a huge announcement for us to start off on today's podcast, and joining me to make that announcement, it's my doubles partner in crime, and the man who's been with me every step of this journey, Maxwell LeBauer Rothman. Maxie, hey, great shot, and what a day we have.
What a weird intro to hear that with Cracked Racquets and Tennis Channel. It's awesome. It's crazy, but it's awesome.
I also want to say we are live. We are test running a video format, so some of our listeners who get this on the traditional podcast format, don't worry, it's still going to come to you that way. You're going to have your usual sound effects, the clock ticking, all of those things, but in the future, be on the lookout for these video streams. It's something we want to start doing a little bit more. Also, with that in mind, because it's a video, probably not going to do as much cussing. I'm sure you listeners aren't going to miss that, but I don't want to.
No promises.
Yeah, my mom, who, by the way, happy birthday, Mom. Westhoff, can I get a happy birthday sound effect, please? Yeah. It is her birthday, and I know she watches this as close as anyone, and so I don't want to be caught swearing by her. And by the way, happy birthday, Mom. This doesn't happen without your love and support. Our biggest fan, so shout out to you. But that being said, as I mentioned, a Cracked Racquets and Tennis Channel production. Let's start off with that real quick. The big announcement today, the launch of the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. It's going to be 8 podcasts across their network, a bunch of different ones. You've got the Cation Cast, obviously R3Tennis.com. You've got what Sports Illustrated is doing, a bunch of cool pods in the mix, so go give that a look. But Rothman, can you explain to the listeners why we're so thrilled to be a part of this?
Well, look, I mean, we've been doing this now for what? It's been about a
2
year
years.
and a half. Has it been 2 full years?
Marin Cilic crying was
US
our first
Open.
Grand Slam.
Yeah, that's true. So it's been about 2 years now, and I think we just, we're excited to be with such a good group of people as well. We've got the Slack channel running. Hopefully we'll get some good banter in there. So, just excited to let everyone get a part of this. We want to expand the tennis community, the podcasting community as far as we can. And we know that with the help of, each other and the tennis channel, that we should be able to, hopefully get our banter and everyone else's banter, out there.
And I talked about this briefly with Jamie on our men's draw preview. But look, if you're in tennis media, there's no one you would rather be partnered with than Tennis Channel. They are the premier see-all things of tennis media, whether it's broadcasting matches, live streams, articles on tennis.com, all of the things we think not only are we excited to be exposed to, but we think will help make us better podcasters. So we are so thrilled to be a part of the network. We also have a huge thank you to give to you, the listener, because I promise you this does not happen without your relentless support along the way for all of the guests that have come on Cracked Interviews or the GSP or the Mini Break. There's some big ones who come to mind, and I'm sorry if I'm not going to name all of you, but like Jonathan Kelly's and the Chris Heliorises of the world who, even early on, before we were anything, they were willing to come on, chat college tennis, State of the Union stuff with us. All of the college coaches and players who embraced us, we're so appreciative to them. Again, the entire tennis Twitter community, we do a Mini Break segment called Tennis Twitter Tuesdays. That wouldn't happen if it wasn't such a vibrant community. This podcast wouldn't have gone on for 2 years because Max and I still have full-time jobs, but the reason we keep doing it is because we've just really embraced and we've loved being a part of this tennis community. So a huge thank you to them. Huge thank you personally. Again, my parents, Mom, happy birthday. This doesn't happen without you. Dad, you're great, but again, Mom, you're the real life support behind this creative endeavor. Michael Azzopardi, I've recorded over 200 pods in your apartment. You're the man. Westhoff, Cracked Racquets team, thank you so much. Am I missing anyone?
I guess thank you to everyone. I mean, I guess I should thank my parents and people. You kind of just did it. Westhoff has to get another shout out. Just
and Fliegner
and Fleegs who started us off.
The OG.
Of course, but the other thing I just wanted to say is as we're going through this whole process, starting up at the Tennis Channel and embarking on this journey, let us know what we can do better. Obviously now that we're doing this, live video feed, which we haven't done before, let us know if we should be doing something different. Tell Gruskin if he should shave because it's still questionable. We don't know how we feel.
Jury's
about this
out.
Yeah. So, like always, we always ask for comments on the podcast for what we can do different, things that you want to hear and see. And so now we've got another platform for you. So definitely feel free to reach out and let us know what we can do better.
Completely agree, and a huge thank you to Tennis Channel for taking a chance on us. We promise we are going to keep the constant stream across all of our platforms. Our website, crackedrackets.com, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, all of these things, and then of course this podcast, the Mini Break Cracked interviews, all part of this Tennis Channel network. So we are so excited to get started with that. But the thing we are really excited for, no better time to launch this network than with the year's final Grand Slam upon us, the 2019 U.S. Open, starting tomorrow, Monday. Men's, women's singles, half of the first round action for both draws. We have had a ton of preview content earlier in the week. Matt Zemek and I did our 5 most intriguing players to watch in the WTA draw. That's what we're going to be doing today. 5 men, obviously. The big 3 have had a stranglehold on the Grand Slams for the past 15 years, and I've given up with including Murray and, calling it a big 4. The vernacular just is big 3.
Have.
No, I'm not saying I believe it, but it's for the listener. But look,
sure.
And it's very obvious that those 3 are going to command so much attention, so many storylines throughout these next 2 weeks. But the point of this exercise, much like with the women, there are a bunch of other players. Who's going to get to the 4th round? Who's going to get to that quarterfinals? Is anyone going to steal maybe a semifinal spot from one of those guys? We wanted to figure out, the 5 players who we thought it may be most intriguing to, again, make the second week unexpectedly, make the semifinals unexpectedly, or maybe, come from behind and win the whole thing. If we think so, I would have sworn there if we weren't live on video. But that's the sort of thing we're going to be talking about today. With that in mind, Max, what were you thinking about when you came up with this list of players?
Okay, really quickly, because I know we're about to really dive in. I feel like it's only right that Westhoff hits us with like some fireworks or a mariachi band or some sort of crazy sound effect just to celebrate the start of this all. 'Cause now we're starting. Now we're in. We're starting.
Yeah, there are stakes now. No more swearing.
Yeah. Exactly. So, and also for those listening, at some point, the wizard Westhoff will figure out how to do these live. But for now, you'll get those, with the podcast. But putting together this list, honestly tough. I think there were a lot of players that I wanted to put in, but I really wanted to think critically about players that maybe we don't always think about, and especially in recent history. We've talked about a lot of these guys in the last few months who have had kind of consistent success, and you'll see some of them in our lists. But I really wanted to think about, last year's results at the U.S. Open, their hard court results in the last, 6 weeks, and kind of think about, their projected results in this U.S. Open. That's how I came up with this list.
And it's a very different list than the women's side where, again, we joked about it. 35 players reasonably, if things break a certain way, could absolutely win the title. That's just not the case on the men's side. And so, again, is a Daniil Medvedev or a Dominic Thiem going to come up? Sneak preview. Yes, they are, because those are 2 guys you have to watch when you're looking at what's going to happen over these 2 weeks. If those 2 guys are able to take a jump, that's significant. That's something that's going to dominate our attention. So that's the theme we're going to start with. And again, our lovely super producer, Daniel Westhoff, who put all of this video technology together, has a few highlight packages he'll be playing as we do this experiment. So with that being said, let's start with our first player. And Maxie, I know you'll say off camera, I've had a theme recently of being rude to you, and I apologize for that, but that same theme is going to continue today. I'm going to be giving you our first player. The one I wanted
Shocker.
to... Yeah, exactly. Westhoff, give me a sizzle for a hot take, because that was a hot take, me going first. But the player I wanted to start with, a guy I think is a fascinating test case for just what's going on the ATP. Is anyone going to break through? David Goffin is my first selection, and the reason I chose him, Goffin, the number 15 seed at this event, he takes on Courtney Moutet in his first round. Moutet, the young Frenchman, we've seen him have a little bit of success, but nothing crazy. He's not lighting the world on fire. But why Goffin is a guy I have circled? Number 1, he's coming off of a Cincinnati Masters final, his first Masters 1000 final of his career. Obviously, that's a significant event for him, but more importantly, you look at his consistency at the Slam, and particularly at the U.S. Open. 4th round in 2018, 4th round in 2017, quarterfinals at Wimbledon, 3rd round at the other 2, but just over the course of his career, especially recently, you can pencil him into the 3rd round, and then you translate that to his portion of the bracket. I mean, in guys, the seeds he's going to have to come up with. Guido Pella, no one's afraid of him on a hard court, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the 19 seed who's had a great year, but David Goffin is the Cincinnati Masters finalist, not worried about that. A potential Cam Norrie 2nd round, okay, that's tough, but I still think Goffin enough. Norrie doesn't have enough big weapons to get by him. And then Goffin's the guy who drew Federer, right? And for Roger Federer, it's not that, quarterfinals Australia, semifinals French Open, final Wimbledon. He's been consistent this year. But he lost fourth round last year to John Millman. And if you're going to draw up a player who could do exactly what John Millman did to Fed, David Goffin is that, but probably like 1.25 times that in terms of ability. And so I just think if he plays his best tennis, given his recent form, his consistency this year, you look at his record, he's up to, again, number 15 in the singles rankings, 26 and 19, no titles, but 2 finals, I believe, in Halle and then in Cincinnati. He's played his best tennis in the second half of the year, and he's one of those guys in the top half who could be a non-Big Three player to do damage.
So look, it's funny that this is your first guy, because I think I looked at him for a second and then pretty much nixed him, and I have a few reasons why. I think if you looked at results going into Wimbledon, I mean, yeah, you're right. He had the Halle final against Fed, makes the quarterfinals at Wimbledon against Djokovic, and then goes into the hardcourt season, loses first round of City Open to Nishioka, who didn't get to play him in that quarterfinal of since he had to withdraw due to, I think, was it food poisoning or illness?
Food poisoning. Good memory.
So super unfortunate there. And then, in Montreal, the next tournament, loses to none other than Guido Pella, who you just, took a little dump on.
Yeah, but wait for part 2 of this, because when I looked it up, I believe he beat Guido Pella as well. I think in Cincinnati, right?
He did. Next tournament, yes, in Cincy, had a good run. I mean, you have to give it to him. The Fritz Pella, Mannarino, Gasquet run is good. It's nothing, I'm super impressed by, but I expect that from Goffin at this point in his career.
If this was 2015, it would have been a jump off the page sort of run, right? You beat an informed Gasquet, an informed Mannarino, I guess a 12-year-old Taylor Fritz, but still. He has looked good. Sorry to cut you off, though.
So I guess my point with him is, he's had some good success, and he's the kind of guy who's usually fairly consistent, but he's also the kind of guy that can lose to a Nishioka, who can lose to a Guido Pella. And yes, he's had consistency in these slams, but I don't know if he's necessarily the guy that I'm looking for to be, super successful here. I think even a guy like Cam Norrie could scare him, being aggressive, coming in, playing the net. I think Goffin's first round against Mute is probably fine. But yeah, the Guido Pella third round too, I think is a potential scare. So I understand where you're coming from, but I also could see this being, potentially a quick out for Goffin if he's not on it.
So you don't echo my Goffin has Federer on upset alert at all?
No.
So Jamie and I talked about this point a little bit in our men's draw preview. And look, if anyone's going to do it, it feels like on paper Goffin would be that guy. You look later in the portion of the draw, Coric, Dimenauer, an injured Nishikori in that bottom section, Milos Raonic, who pulls out of the tournament. I mean, this is like your classic Federer has everything break right for him, and he finds himself in the semis again. And I circled David Goffin because I think he's one of the only guys in that section of the draw who could upset that status quo. And just my last point on him, if you don't mind, and then I want to get to your first player. You look at his record in terms of the year. This is why I'm backing up, because he was not good before the French Open, but then third round French Open, takes a set off, but ultimately loses to Nadal. Since then, quarterfinals in the Netherlands, finals in Halle, quarterfinals at Wimbledon before losing to Djokovic, a bad City Open loss to Nishioka 7-6 in the third, but we've seen Nishioka play well recently. Yeah, Pella not great, but then this finals in Cincinnati, he's playing better tennis. It seems like he's finally recovered from taking that ball to the eye, and that would be the worst thing other than maybe to the nuts, is when you take a ball to the eye. It's horrible. Yeah. And so I think he's confident again, and that's just why I have him circled.
Yeah, I think my only issue with him before we move on is just I don't feel like he's truly been Medvedev's a test for sure, but I just worry that he hasn't seen someone really strong in the last few tournaments, of course, besides Djokovic in that final or quarterfinal of Wimbledon. So we'll see. I think, if he can get through those first few, yeah, Federer will be tested, but he'll be fine.
Could be another. Worried. If it was like a 4-set, like what Goffin did to Nadal, where he looks really good for a set, that makes sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, I can live with that scenario. Well, then, with that in mind, Max Rothman, your number one most intriguing, and not number one, but the first on your list of most intriguing players heading into the Open.
So, really quickly before I do this, I think someone that I wanted to put on early, and I just want to mention really quick because you already said it, Milos Raonic, not on the list, of course, because he had to withdraw. Sad. He was one of the guys. I want to say we did a pod, and we were looking at the Bovada odds, and he was top 6, top 7. And it's hilarious because he's still in like the top 12 guys that could win for some reason. But he's really a guy who, if not injured, was a contender for a final even. I know that's crazy to say. That might be
Sizzle me,
take.
Please, Westhoff.
It's a hot take, but seriously, we've seen the guy on the hard court. It's impressive, and if he serves big and hits, keeps his forehand in play, he's tough. So just I wanted to say, sad to see him out. But my first guy also has a very large serve and a very large forehand, Mr. Riley Opelka, who of course you're one of his biggest fans, and I thought I was gonna get a little more out of you for choosing him first. Maybe it's because you already knew that was coming, but Opelka has had also a great year. He's 19-16 on the year, and while he hasn't necessarily, he also has his first title. It's a big year for him. While the last few tournaments haven't been spectacular, he's had some good wins. His match with FAA at City was a great match. He beats Eubanks in the round before. He beats Borna Coric in Cincy before losing to Dimenauer. And Dimenauer, I think, just has his number because it also took him in the semifinals of Atlanta, but, takes out Isner in that tournament as well. And so he's had some good results. Wawrinka at Wimbledon, while on the grass, very impressive. Probably his best win of his career besides his win against Isner. So I just think that on the hard courts at the U.S. Open, where he's going to have people really rallying behind him, I think it's going to be dangerous. I want to say he looks the most confident I've seen him, and he's starting to get a little more comfortable on court. And I truly think you should be scared. Last year loses first round of qualies to Kecmanovic. Another guy that I think people should be looking out for. Hint, hint. But I think this year could be different, especially being in the main draw.
I think, one, the reason I didn't jump on you when you said Riley Opelka is now that we're on video, people will see if I interrupt you. So I'm trying to look a little calmer, stay composed.
That's all it takes is video.
Yeah, exactly, now that I'm on the spot. But yeah, it's like that's why they put those cameras at intersections, right? To catch you doing something wrong. Well, this is this. Westhoff's trying to catch me do something wrong. But getting back to it, you talk about Riley. We have the added benefit, again, of doing this after the draws come out. In Riley's first-round matchup against Fabio Fognini, on paper, there's always a top 16 seed that loses. And this is just one of those classic cases where Riley's going to serve big for 4 out of the 5 sets. He's going to win 2 tiebreakers and manage a break in one of them. And that's the recipe for upsets for him are so clear. Now, Fognini is the type of guy who's going to go big on lines, and he's going to hurt Riley. He's going to make Riley move and, take chances. And that's tough for Riley. But I feel like Fabio Fognini is the type of player who not loses focus. That's wrong. But he's going to get frustrated with another big serve. Oh, another ace. Oh, another ace. And, as you mentioned, we saw Riley not only beat Stan, we've seen him beat Isner. This is a guy who, it's his 5th career main draw at a slam. But he seems comfortable in the 3 out of 5 format.
He does. And, I'm glad that you went into the draw. That's where I was going to go next. Fognini, like you said, is the kind of guy where he might start going for big shots and not playing Fognini's game as, Opelka starts to hit the big forehands down the line and the big backhands and just, doing the thing that he does best. And then if he can get through Fognini, I think that's really where, I had Opelka early in this list is he can really break through. His second round match, he either gets a Koepfer or a Munar, and neither of which are, I think, going to test him as much as Fognini's going to test him. And then following that, you're looking at a Paolo Lorenzi Kecmanovic, maybe? I mean, unless Gier is able to take Kecmanovic. So, getting through Fognini, he's got a pretty open draw going through.
So real quick, I apologize for jumping on you there. Opelka in the Medvedev portion, that would be his 4th round. Kecmanovic would be the Djokovic side. But so just real quick. But it's all close. But you're absolutely right. It's a big if Riley Opelka can beat Fognini.
But so he gets Basilashvili.
Yeah, exactly. But if he beats Fognini, that section is wide open. And Basilashvili, I believe he plays Fuksovic's first round. A lot of people, for justifiable reasons, have that circle as an upset alert. So let's say Basilashvili goes out. Let's say Fognini goes out. Now you've got Fuksovic's, worn down Berdych or Brooksby, Dominic Kofor, who's going to come on Monday's Mini Break podcast. Go give that a listen. Former Tulane All-American, former number player in the world. We're always a fan of that. But it's who in that, on paper, if Opelka gets the win, is more qualified than him to emerge from that section.
Totally. I think it's funny that you say a worn-down Berdych or Brooksby as if, Brooksby's really going to wear down Berdych.
No. Tomas Berdych is worn down, just period at this point. He's 0.7 Tomas Berdych. Not as a person, I'm sure personality-wise. He's very vivacious. But I'm saying tennis-wise.
Nice word.
Thank you. Tennis-wise, hey, great shot. He is just not the same player he was in 20. There was no Gasquet-like resurgence from him at any point this season. So I'm not saying Brooksby is the favorite going in. I'm saying I don't really think either of those players has shown a higher level this year than Riley Opelka. So again, that's why he's intriguing, because if he wins that first match, that section is fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, obviously, hard court, best surface for Opelka. The heat right now in New York and Flush.
The grass. Opelka on grass is nasty.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, if you look at his win percentages, granted he hasn't played as much grass. Hard court still is favored 53.5% to the 40% on grass. But look, I'm just saying, the heat at the U.S. Open in Flushing Meadows going to make that ball pop a little bit. Haven't heard too much chatter about the courts yet and whether they're, feel like people are saying they're playing slow or fast. But as we start to hear about that, the faster they are, the better for him. So we'll see what people say about the courts.
I completely agree with you. It's going to be very fun to watch. Riley, a must-circle name, one we're always a fan of at Cracked Racquets, as he's been on a Cracked Interviews podcast, and it was a while back. But listeners, if you're intrigued, go check that out. But okay, with that in mind, I want to move on to my... Any final thoughts, or can I move on to my number 2?
No, let's hear it.
So you're going to like this one. Again, one of the questions Jamie and I did during our preview for the men's draw is talk about, are there any unseeded players we think could make the second week? And obviously Goffin, a seeded player who we've just talked about. Riley Opelka, unseeded, we made the case. Another one I want to make the case for, Jan-Lennard Struff, who you could argue is the favorite and has showed the best form of any player in his portion of the draw. And let me do that for you just now before I even get into... Well, I guess I'll set the scene for Struff first. You look at him as a player this year, his record on the season, no titles to his name, but he jumps from 58 to 20 or to 37 in the rankings, reached a high of 33 earlier in the year. He's 28 and 20 on the year, but let's look at his record since, maybe the French Open where round of 16 Rome, round of 16 at the French Open, semifinals in Stuttgart, round of 16 in Halle where he loses in 3 to Kachanov. That's fine. Third round Wimbledon, he loses in 4 to Kukushkin. Probably would like that one back. Loses to Carreno Busta Hamburg. Again, would like that back. Thompson would like that back. But then he beats Tsonga in Montreal, loses in 3 to Basilashvili. He makes the round of 16 in Cincy, beating Karlovic, beating Tsitsipas, losing to an obvious informed Daniil Medvedev. He's a big hitter who takes it to you. When he serves well, the ball is in his, it's on his racket. And his portion of the draw, John Isner hasn't, he won Newport, but since then, early losses. He's the 14 seed. That would be Struff's second round match. I watched Marin Cilic get dusted by Radu Elbat at Cincinnati, and look, he's the 22 seed, not exactly
Cilic
in
looks
great
rough.
form. Exactly. Struff is the guy in this section who, someone unseeded again is going to make that second week. And if we're not betting on this, but if you're a betting man, when you do like the Turnitopia draws we are, and by the way, listeners, it might be too late, but if you're a part of the Cracked Racquets Turnitopia draw, listen every day on the mini break where we'll be giving daily updates. But that's why I have Struff in my fourth round against Nadal. I just don't trust the other seeds.
Yeah, man. I mean, the problem is Isner can get hot. If he's serving well, and it's not like Ruud is a easy first round match. That's not for him. It's funny now that you mentioned just an unseeded player making the second week. There were a bunch of unseeded players in the fourth round last year. One of which was Basilashvili, who lost to Nadal. Who else did we had? We had Kohlschreiber, we had Sauso, we had Millman. So there are potential for a lot of these unseeded guys to make it there, and I do think you're right. Struff probably has one of the best chances.
And look, just to add on, Struff, 29 years old, so physical prime, it's not going to get better for him than this. You look at his results at the slams, nothing crazy, no quarterfinals in his future, but the past 2 years, last year, second round, third round. This year, first round, fourth round, third round. He is playing his best tennis these past 2 years. He's won a couple of matches at slams before. I think that he got to the fourth round of the French Open could be very consequential for him here. It's intriguing, right? When we're making this list of guys to watch, he's a one circle. I'm not saying he's going to beat Nadal and make the quarters. I'm saying he could get there.
Look, his game, the big serve, the big forehand. I mean, yeah, he is a guy where he could shock some people. And look, he just beat Tsitsipas in Cincy, a couple, whatever that was, a week or two ago. Not a great match with Medvedev afterwards, but he's had some good. He beat Tsonga in Montreal, so he has the firepower. That's the thing. I mean, that's what when we're making this list, who do we want to watch for? Guys who have firepower on the hard court, and he's definitely one of them. So. Look, with the draw he's got, an Isner Cilic, section, that's doable. That is doable.
I think the games of Struff and Berrettini are so interchangeable in my head. I'm like, all right, muscular guys, linebackers, forehand serves.
Although Struff moves, I think, a little bit better than Berrettini. Better? I think so.
I would say, maybe.
It's different.
But Berrettini's back. He's a little more skilled.
Sure.
Struff is just a jan-lennard. I'm Struffing you.
Big guy.
Yeah, exactly. He'll give you that Struff. But with that being said, Max Rothman, your number 2 player.
So my next guy is someone that we unfortunately haven't seen enough of in the last few months, and I know you know where I'm going with this. This is Mr. Hyun Chung, and look. You can't really look at his recent results too much as a way of convincing yourself why he's someone to watch for. But his qualifying matches were great. He looked good. I think you needed to watch him a little bit just to see. When he first started to come back off injury, he looked a little shaky. He wasn't moving as well. He was just, I didn't feel like I saw the same consistency from him. And I feel like I'm starting to see that a little bit more from him as he's, been back on the tour a little bit. But he has had some good results. He won a challenger in China. He has won a couple other matches in challengers, and he's got an Ernesto Escobedo first round match as a qualifier. That is about the best first round match you could ask for. And he's got all the skills. He has the weapons. If he can get comfortable out there being back in his first Grand Slam after injury, he could be dangerous. And he's got a draw too that's relatively open. So I just see there's a lot of things that need to go right. But if they do for him, watch out.
I'm the conductor of the Chung train. That's
of course.
I've been on it since the beginning. And since he won the Next Gen Finals, the inaugural event, he looked that good. And our friend at Double Fault, who's one of the best GIF producers on tennis Twitter during that run for Hyun Chung when he's coming back winning that maiden challenger title a couple of weeks ago, I was asking him, hey, can you post this GIF of the backhand down the line Chung hit? Hey, I just hit another ridiculous shot. Will you post this one? I've been watching him every step of the way because the firepower he can produce, particularly off the backhand side, but just from the baseline. I mean, he's a machine. He's so consistent, so solid, so relentless with his pace. His serve, the toss is a little weird. He sometimes has too low of a first serve percentage, and that can hurt him, but he's a solid returner. He likes going after the forehand. He's a stocky guy, not the best volleyer, but the type of nightmare match you look at when it's best of 5 sets. And for him, in terms of intriguing, it sucks that he's in the Nadal portion, and, Escobedo can hit the clock off the ball, so maybe he could give him some trouble. But I see Hyun Chung as a third-round opponent. I could see him beating the winner of Verdasco-Kamka, making that third round for sure.
Absolutely. And that's what I meant by an open draw. I mean, you're not going to get much better of a draw than Struff got as far as your seeds go. But being able to have an Escobedo first round and a Verdasco second round to have a shot at Nadal. I mean, of course, we're relying on Chung being healthy. No blisters, no, tweaked ankles, none of that.
Foggy glasses.
Right. Whatever it is, as long as he can stay relatively healthy, I think it'd be a fun challenge for Nadal. I think, Nadal will be fine, but it could be one of those matches where people are tuning in, they go, wow, this is fun tennis.
And for Hyun Chung, making the third round to end his season, given he didn't have any chance, that's a win.
Totally. He makes the second round last year, loses to Kukushkin, probably a match that he should have won.
Do you remember that one? Do you remember me screaming at you via text?
Yes. I mean, we both were looking at this like, oh my God, he got a Kukushkin second round match. He's going to win this. He's going to, yeah. He really had an opportunity there and unfortunately blew it.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with your selection. I was banking on you picking him so that I could sneak other guys in, but yeah, absolutely one of my favorite players to watch. And his matchup versus Ernesto Escobedo, must see on Tuesday.
That's probably one of the top matches to watch.
I guarantee we will talk about it. Actually, unless Chung wins like 2-2-2, it'll come up on the mini break. That's for sure.
I could see like a Chung first round smack, Escobedo smack in the second, a tight third, and then Escobedo screwed in the fourth.
Or whoever wins the third wins the fourth, 6-1.
True. Yeah, whoever, you're right. That's exactly what's happening.
No, I completely agree with that. That seems very feasible. Well, with that said, let's move on to my number 3 guy. This is really going to be our first big contender because we mentioned David Goffin, the number 15 seed, that you can make a case for him. But this is my first top 4 seed, and that, of course, none of the big 3, but number 4 seed Dominic Thiem, who has not looked good coming in. You know, you look in Canada, he did okay. He made the quarterfinals after beating Shapo in 3, Cilic in straights before getting blown out by Medvedev in a match that if you watched, he just didn't look healthy. He then ends up pulling out of Cincinnati because, again, he was not healthy. He has spoken to the press since then. He said he feels, significantly better. He knew going into Cincy he was sick, and he's taken time since then to get better. And given the year he's had, he's the one non-big 3 player, maybe outside of Wawrinka, but he hasn't done it recently, to make, 2 Grand Slam finals in the past 2 years. Now, he loses them both to Nadal on the clay, but he has that sort of experience. He pushed Nadal to the brink last year, playing maybe the best tennis I have ever seen in that first set. What was it, 6-0 win over Nadal? That was crazy. Mm-hmm. And he won Indian Wells this year. He backed it up. He had success on a hard court. 3 out of 5. You don't need me to tell you what Dominic Thiem can do to you. He's one of the most intriguing players coming into this because, simply put, he's one of the few guys outside the big 3 where if you told a common tennis fan, hey, Dominic Thiem, 2 weeks from now, Dominic Thiem won the 2019 U.S. Open, they'd be like, all right, I guess I could see how it happened.
Yeah, I mean, also, given his draw, I think he's got probably one of the best quarters. Having Tsitsipas on the other end, not exactly what you want to see, but as far as his immediate matches, Fabiano first round, a Geraldo Bublik second round, looking at Edmund in the third, who who knows what happens with that guy? He's all over the place. He might even lose to a Pablo Andujar.
Don't slander a fellow ginger.
that gives me the right to do
it.
And then you're looking at this fourth round as a spew of players who have a tougher time getting there. You're looking at maybe an FAA after going through Shapo and Monfils. So
or maybe a Shapo after going through FAA and Monfils. Exactly.
Or Monfils after going through them. So I think just the way the draw played out for him too is great. And like you said, the guy took Nadal in a ridiculous 5-set match, one that I'm sure he still thinks about, and he wants to cover those points. He's going to be thinking about this. I think the best decision he made was to take Cincy off, get the time, recover, relax, get in the right mindset. I think you can expect, you should expect a for sure second week.
It's the sort of decision he wouldn't have made 2 years ago to pull out. It's the sort of mature decision.
We were saying 2 years ago, this guy, we were like, oh my God, he doesn't stop.
How is he walking?
Right, like he literally plays everything. Yeah. And so it's good. He also has afforded himself that ability with, just the amount of tournaments he's won and the points that he has. So it's good that he's able to do that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I actually think his portion of the draw may be my favorite quarter. The Djokovic one is awesome, but you look at the seeds here, and I don't think we're on the list for these guys, but Kyrgios, Tsitsipas, not exactly, if they end up playing Dominic Thiem, that's a thrilling quarterfinal matchup. As you mentioned, the FAAs of the world, RBA, one of the top maybe 10 players for sure, maybe top 5 guys in the entire ATP Tour in 2019. There's a lot of talent in this section, and given none of them are big 3 players, I'm sure common fans will agree. Anyone can come through it. And on Turnitopia, I like to have fun with my Turnitopia, but I have a Team Kyrgios quarterfinal, and I know I'm going to regret it come 2:05 Monday, whenever.
I do it every single year. Don't worry.
Yeah,
Not even every year. Every Grand Slam, I do it too.
What are we going to give the Cracked Racquets and Tennis Channel shirts to ourselves? Like, no. So let's have a little fun with it.
Well, I did win the Wimbledon bracket, so I need a little more competition this time.
Yeah, hey, great shot to you. I agree, but I have Dominic Thiem making the finals. I think he's going to beat Nadal. I think he's fresh enough, and I hope he can show that level again. He has time with Fabiano, with the Bublik Geraldo winner. Although, again, I've said this to Jamie. There's a scenario where Sasha Bublik just serves out of his mind the first week and finds himself in the fourth round. But if Thiem can work his way into form, get better and better each match, and get away with wins along the way, there is absolutely no reason he can't get to the semifinals. And in my opinion, no reason he can't make the finals, put up a shot against probably Djokovic, and just see what happens.
I'm right there with you. I think we've said what we have to say about Thiem. If you're ready to go on to my next guy, who's in a similar category as Dominic Thiem.
Yeah, that's why he's my number 3, but go for it. Your number 3 player.
Number 3, Daniil Medvedev. And
I love it.
And you have to. I thought, I might get some eye rolls from people listening to this. Why
counterpoint. I completely, you absolutely, like, what?
Well, that's right. So that's what I'm saying. Yes, you have to look for this guy. 44-16 this season. I mean, that's absurd. And just, I'm like almost speechless because leads the
ATP Tour. I just had my fantasy draft tonight. He leads the ATP Tour in wins. Like, you're right.
Like, just finals of Cincy, finals of Montreal, finals of City, 3 finals. I mean, what more confidence do you want going into the U.S. Open? I mean, the dude has literally dominated the hardcourt season. He is, I think, besides Djokovic, the favorite. I really do, and I don't think that's a hot take.
So it's tough because they're in the same portion of the draw, right? They're in the same quarter, and inevitably, it feels like given their level, there's a lot of other talented players in that section as we kind of went through the Kecmanoviches, the Stans. But for Medvedev, we talked how wide open that Opelka portion is. Taylor Fritz or Nishioka as a potential third round, or even Feliciano Lopez is dangerous, but best 3 out of 5, those guys can't hold up physically with Daniil Medvedev. And so you're right. It's to the point where when the inevitable Djokovic-Medvedev matchup happens, it's just, can Medvedev serve the way he did that last set and a half in Cincy over the course of 3 out of 5? And I've said it before. One of my favorite, if not my favorite matches of 2019, Medvedev versus Djokovic at the Australian Open, where Djokovic won in 4 sets, but it was the most laborious, just physically draining match I think I've seen all season. And now that Medvedev has the confidence to take chances, play big against Djokovic, you add in that dynamic, boy, do I hope we get that matchup, because that's going to be a fun one.
It is, and I think it's good. I think the draw is good for Medvedev going in. He's got, most likely a Fritz third round before that.
You think Fritz gets there? I know this is a tangent, but we haven't talked Taylor Fritz yet, and I feel like that's a staple.
I hope he gets there.
All right, I'm going to name 3 real quick. We get to do this. Okay, go ahead, please.
I think he beats Feli, and then Giron just actually surprises everyone and whoops him.
I want you to know that Jamie said the exact same thing. So when 2 people are saying it, it's no longer crazy. Look, the mental reasons are clear.
Right. So I think that's possible. But then Medvedev afterwards.
Wait, can I throw my Fritz tangent at you real quick?
Oh, sure, yeah, go for it.
Okay, sorry about that. And for our new Tennis Channel listeners, any of you, tangents, big theme here at the Great Shot Podcast.
That's everything.
We haven't talked about them, and I wanted to include one of the 3. You included Opelka, so I used that. But Riley Opelka, Taylor Fritz, Francis Tiafoe, who first round plays Karlovic, second round potential Alex Zverev. Of those 3, A, who goes the furthest? B, do any of them make the second week?
If anyone makes the second week, it's Opelka.
Mm-hmm.
Unless
Frizzle, are you going to say Tiafoe?
Unless Zverev just plays the crap that he's been playing, and Tiafoe comes out hot, and that could happen. That's not out of this, the realm of possibilities. But yeah, I mean, Opelka the best chance. Although Damn.
Tiafoe, though, if he beats Zverev, first swear, hey, great job. Damn, doesn't really count.
No.
But Tiafoe, if he gets by Zverev, then Benoit Paire, who's, at that point will have won, I think, 7 matches in like 9 or 6 or maybe even 6 days, counting back to Winston-Salem. He will have fatigue on him. There's another world where Francis Tiafoe, who, by the way, has made a quarterfinal, the only of the American Next Gen guys to do so. It's possible. So I see that chart, but for the reasons we said earlier, I'd probably stick with Riley Opelka.
Yeah, I think you have to.
Yeah.
Not unfortunately. That's just the way that this draw looks.
That's just the way it is.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Medvedev, though. Back to Medvedev. There's not even a whole lot more to say. He's been so good. His draw looks great. Everyone wants to see that quarterfinal against Djokovic. That's it.
Yeah. Do you think Medvedev switches to Nike by the end of 2020?
No. Lacoste is such a good look. Such a good look for him. You know what? I really like the Lacoste kits. I think they're classy, clean. I really like them.
I just like a kit that goes from headband to shoe. Like, I love the swoosh. I'm not anti-Lacoste, anti-anything, really, except for Athletic DNA, which I don't think exists anymore. But I am...
That's a throwback.
Yeah, the swoosh. He's a swoosher.
He's not, though.
He's not a swoosher.
He's the,
funky
rebel Lacoste guy.
Yeah, right.
If you also notice, all the Lacoste guys are the collared shirt, no wristband kind of guy. Like, if you're a Nike guy, you got to be Nadal, double wristband, headband, wraps. Like, you need all of it.
Wraps?
Yeah.
I love that. That's hilarious.
Everything.
Yeah. Look, that's why we do tangents, because you spot-on analysis as always. And
spot-on clothing analysis.
Yeah, and Daniil Medvedev.
You can expect that from me.
Daniil Medvedev, you're the clothing guy. You're trying to pivot to a lane already. I like it.
We might need to change over chat just on clothing.
Yeah, look, God willing, when the sponsors coming in, I imagine some will hopefully be tennis clothing.
Send it to us. We'll get some models. We'll try them on. We'll do like a little, runway action where we debate which ones are the best kits. There's a lot of opportunity here. That's all.
We're wearing Cracked Racquets gear right now in the video, but I'm for sale. I will, whatever you need. If I need a little patch, a little Rakuten patch on my sleeve, I'm ready.
I was gonna say the one that I'm wearing. I don't know if I'm allowed to do this. We got a little Nike action going on here. So.
You are not allowed to do that. No. That's hilarious. And for you without video, you should know he did just point at his bulging bicep and flexed while pointing. But that's half of his charm. But all right, with that being said, back on schedule here. Only a couple of more players to go. This next player, number 4, a guy we both agree on, and that's why, again, both of our number 4s will go to him next. Amir Kusmanov, who we talked about a lot during the Cincinnati run on the mini break, the way he was able, make the quarterfinals or round of 16 out of qualifying. He beats FAA first round. He beats Zverev first round. Was given the business by RBA, but you play 4 matches in, I think it was 5 days. I'm sure there was a little fatigue associated with that. Interesting decision to go to Winston-Salem afterwards, where he beats Popyrin, but then loses to Denis Shapovalov in what I thought was Denis Shapovalov's best match of the year. But again, story for another time. But Amir Kusmanov made a round of 16 and a quarterfinal at the Masters level this year on hard courts. And I know they were in very different circumstances. He got a Nishioka withdrawal in Indian Wells that propelled him to that quarterfinal. I also know Amir Kusmanov at, I believe, he's 19 years old, maybe 20 at this point. 19 years old, turns 20, though, at the end of the month. He doesn't have a ton of Grand Slam experience. This will be his 4th ever, his 4th of the year as well. First round, second round earlier in the year. And by the way, that he was able to win a round at Wimbledon, given that he made a final the Saturday before on the grass. A great result for him. But he's had, half a week, 5 days to rest up. Given the openness of his draw, which we talked about again on our GSP men's draw preview, but also a little bit earlier, he's the beneficiary of Kevin Anderson withdrawing from that portion. First round, he has Laszlo Djere, which will be a tough match, but then he'd have the winner of Lorenzi or Svaja, neither of those intimidating to him. Then he'll have a Stan Wawrinka potentially, who would have had to go through Jannik Sinner and Hubie Hurkacz. And he's another unseeded player. I think you said there were 4 last year. Right now I have Opelka, Kusmanov, and Struff as my 3 unseeded players. Oh, and De Minaur. Those are my 4 for this year.
Yeah, I think those are all possible. And yeah, I mean, the third round in sight for him. I mean, he should be just itching to get there. This is such a good opportunity for him. And look, he started the year playing challengers. I mean, he had to qualify for Australian Open, which he did. Kudos to him for making it through those 3 rounds. But he was mainly playing, challengers at the beginning of this year, and he has progressively gotten better. So, he's had some good wins throughout the last, few weeks as well. And I think, given the circumstances of his draw, he should have a lot of confidence going into this and expect to be in that third round. Have those expectations, push it, have that be that, kick in the butt to really make him want to get to that third round.
And again, for the former world junior number 1 to make even a third round to round out his year, I believe he's inside the top 50 now for sure. If he gets a couple of wins here, given that he has no points to defend.
He's ranked 50 on the dot.
Exactly. So with added points, with a couple wins here, he gets himself right around that top 40 to end the year. He's still eligible to play the next gen finals. Hopefully he does. There are a lot of opportunities for Amir Kusmanov to position himself really well entering the 2020 season. For me, this is another one of them in terms of his game. Physically developed. He's an IMG ball machine. He's tracking everything down. He will go for angles. He'll go down the line big when have to. Not the biggest serve, but just a very solid all-around game. Another one of the most intriguing players certainly to follow as we head into this U.S. Open. But, again, 2 more to go. This is another guy we agreed on, and I cheated again because I got to see your list, and I knew you included him. Hubie Hurkacz is the next player we're going to talk about, Maxie, and obviously he just got his first final and championship on the ATP Tour at Winston-Salem. But I feel like this was a guy we could have circled even before that result.
Absolutely. He took Tsitsipas in Montreal after taking down Fritz. Had a good Wimbledon, in my opinion, getting to that third round against Djokovic. And if you remember that match, it was a good match. He played really well. So I think one of those guys who's young and is starting to get the confidence in the Grand Slams, hasn't played too many himself. But the confidence that you get after winning a tournament, unlike anything else. I mean, that is truly awesome to have had the success at Winston-Salem, beating Feli, beating Tiafoe, beating Shapo, and Benoit. Those are, 4 guys in a row that shows that he can, day after day, consistently play that high-quality tennis. So I think we can see there's a good chance for him to make it far in the U.S. Open this year.
And we should say those wins over Tiafoe and Shapo came back-to-back on a Friday, right? 3 sets physical against Tiafoe, and then Shapo was playing his best tennis, and he beats him in straights 3 and 4. That's an impressive run. But yeah, he has done it all this season. He's progressed into that top 50, a player we circled when we did our top 10 next-gen seasons of the year after Wimbledon. He 6'6", physically gifted. I get that he will be fatigued after the Winston-Salem run, but he's a young guy, and he has 2 days off. He doesn't play till is he a Monday start? He is a Monday start, 3:30 tomorrow. So that's brutal, and I think I actually mentioned that in the Stan match. I would have Stan on upset alert by Hubie, but you have to wonder playing that many matches, that many consecutive days. But he's young. If he's in form, if he's not healthy, or if he is healthy, there's no reason he can't go on a run.
Yeah, I mean, that was my only concern, is the fact that he's played so many matches. But prior to that, he loses first round of Cincy to RBA, so didn't play, pretty much that whole week leading up to Winston-Salem, although I guess it's not, as much of a break as some tournaments. But he's young, dude. He'll be fine. I do think that his confidence from the tournament will carry him through that Wawrinka match. If I'm a betting man, I think that's a great, depending on what the lines are, of course, I think that's a great opportunity to take him as an upset.
Yeah, completely agree with you. Well, with that being said, let's move on to our final player. It is the last guy, and you're going to like this one because not a traditional name, a guy who has had no success at all when it comes to 2019. In fact, he's just probably happy he didn't draw Stan Wawrinka in the first round of this tournament. I, of course, am talking about Grigor Dimitrov, who is my last most intriguing player. And let me just make the case.
How?
Let's look at his portion of the draw. First round, Seppi. Interesting, right? Very winnable. Second round, Coric, who hasn't played at all since Wimbledon, just hasn't found a run of luck.
He could lose to Seppi.
That's true. But if he beats Seppi, he again, you look at his little, 32nd, maybe 16th of the draw. Raonic was his 21 seed, out. Jack Sock and Pablo Cuevas, neither exactly scary. So, again, if Grigor can win his first 2 matches, get by the Chorch, or if Chorch gets upset, you're going to tell me Nicolas Jarry is a prohibitive favorite over Grigor Dimitrov? I'm going to call BS.
No.
And I love Jarry. No, it's the section of the draw. That's why it's so intriguing because, again, we have the benefit of looking at the draw.
Alex.
If he's ever going to say, you know what, my career's not over. I'm not just a pretty face. I still have a lot of good tennis left in me. This is the draw. You got the draw, Grigor. And let's see what you have left in the tank.
He's had 7 first-round losses this year.
That's horrible.
He lost to Kevin King. No offense to Kevin King, who's a great player.
Georgia Tech alum.
He lost first round to Kevin King in Atlanta. I mean, dude, you cannot tell me that he's going to lose first round to Seppi.
All right, that's your take. My take is, and again, I'm saying intriguing because if he loses first round to Seppi, maybe it's just one really bad year, but it's going to be really hard not to just write him off going into 2020, given how many young, exciting players are on tour. But if he can win a few matches here, which the draw, it seems like, could allow him to do we see a Grigor Dimitrov resurgence in 2020? Like, I would be all for that.
I mean, look, I would love to have him back. The guy won Nitto Finals in 2017. Like, he has
it in it.
He has it all. Question, what do you think the line is for the Seppi Dimitrov match? I have it up in front of me.
Given your tone of voice, and I can see you, if Seppi's probably... maybe it's even. No. Seppi is Grigor the favorite? So Seppi plus 250.
Nice. Seppi's plus 210. Dimitrov minus 260.
Yeah, that sounds pretty right. I mean,
yeah,
that's not bad odds, but like, are we gonna do first round parlays? No, we'll say that. No, we can't gamble anymore. We're part of Tennis Channel. Come on. Yeah, I just think look, all of these guys. Raonic isn't even in the tournament. I don't want to spend a second talking about Marin Cilic. We've talked about Kei Nishikori's injury woes, but we talked about David Goffin. But these 27 now to age 30 guys, we see how good these next-gen guys are. They are creeping up on you. Daniil Medvedev won a freaking Masters 1000 title, right? Karen Kachanov's done it as well. Zverev's done it as well. Your window is just about as shut as it will get because Djokovic, Federer, Nadal, they've seemed to have boxed you out, and now there's young guys on the horizon. So Grigor, and I don't know why I'm talking to him personally, but if Grigor is going to do anything, this is the draw. Like, I'm just so convinced. And I have Chorch beating him. Let's be clear. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying now or never.
You're trying to lose the bracket challenge. You're literally trying
I have Chorch. I have Chorch over Dimitrov. I wouldn't tank that bad.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were saying the other way around.
No. I have Chorch, but I'm saying I'm intrigued.
Yeah. And by the way, you were talking to Dimitrov because you're assuming that he is listening to this podcast.
I mean,
or at least hoping.
Handsome people listen to handsome people, right?
Oh, God. Now people can actually see you say that in live. Thank God.
I would say, yeah, he's a little more handsome than
as he strokes his newly grown in facial hair. For those of you who aren't
the Wolverine
watching,
patches aren't as bad as they once were. It's very true.
It's getting better.
Yeah, but that being said, Dimitrov was my last guy. And any final thoughts for you in terms of this men's draw, in terms of players you're watching, thoughts you have going into it?
I mean, there's just so many good first round matches. If you're not watching the next 2 days, like, you're making a mistake. I mean, we've got the Canadians, the young Canadians, FA and Chapo. They're squaring off. I think they're Tuesday though. So there's just so many good matches. I think unlike some of the previous Grand Slams, I think this one has the most potential for the big three to end up in the semifinals. I think I've been more scared about them not making it in the past. I feel way more confident in them, going into this tournament, which is not necessarily my preference. I think I'd like to see someone, knock them off early, but I don't know, the injuries and some of the way that this draw played out, it just seems to have favored, these guys. So you can probably expect to see the big three in the semifinals with, a contender in there, unless Medvedev, takes out a Djokovic in the quarterfinals, something like that. But just get ready for the next few days. Really good quality matchups in the first round, and I'm just excited.
Yeah, and for listeners who want to catch up on any of the action, be prepared for what will be a very exciting final Grand Slam of the 2019 season. Check out our website, crackedrackets.com. As I mentioned, Matt Zemek and I did this exact same exercise, but for the women's singles draw. I believe that was released maybe Wednesday or Thursday of last week, so if you want to go check that out, it holds up well, even with the draw being released. If you want to hear the men's draw preview that Jamie and I did, again, that's a Great Shot podcast we released yesterday. Cracked interviews-wise, a lot of fun interviews in the queue. I know we released our interview with, in my opinion, the greatest collegiate tennis player, at least on the men's side of all time, Stevie Johnson today.
It's not even your opinion.
It's a fact, right?
It's
you win 72 matches in a row, that's a fact.
Yeah.
And who, by the way, you'll love this, Rothman, I may have told you, but when I asked him who's a bigger rival, UCLA or UVA, he said you got to beat you got to beat us to be a rival, and UVA never did that. So that's the sort of spice you like, and I promise listeners will like that. Again, Katie Vollinet's the wild card winner from San Diego. We had her on recently, so if you want to learn more about her before she plays, check that out. Dom Kopfer today on the mini break, some fun cracked interviews in the future as well to be on the lookout for. It's going to be a fun week. Again, any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
Just one more thanks to Tennis Channel. We're super excited to be here. And
Woo! No, you want to hear something great? Is that Westhoff, when we were, because I wanted to do the whole thing, welcome to Powered by Tennis Channel Podcast Network, whatever, and I was like, and I want a powered sound effect. And so for the powered sound effect, Westhoff goes, oh yeah, and it'll be something like, yeah, 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 yeah. I was like, what? So
I'm just so glad we have this on video now, because your face when you gave the woo was like, it was mismatched. They did not go with the sounds you made. So I'm glad we have this now. This is so much better.
Yeah, and of course, with that being said, a huge shout out to the super producer we just mentioned, Daniil Westhoff, for making this video podcast happening. He has of a job to do. I'll leave it in there so that he can make it a quack come podcast time. But for those on video, you don't get the full swear. But again, like, rate, subscribe, review this podcast, the Cracked Interviews, the mini break. Be on the lookout for all of our content all week long, because it's going to be a very fun under the sun final Grand Slam of the year. But with that being said, for my lovely co-host and doubles partner Maxwell LeBauer Rothman, for our super producers Max Fliegner and Daniil Westhoff, and from our entire team at both the Tennis Channel Podcast Network and Cracked Rackets, I'm your host Alex Gruskin. Maxie, you hear the excitement in my voice. What do we tell our listeners?
What a smile that was, and hey, great shot.
And we will see you all throughout the U.S. Open. Thank you, everyone.